Welcome. It's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres here in lovely Marion, Michigan. And this is the Anyone Can Farm Experience live chat, Tuesday night edition. I'm Mark, your host. Feeling good today. It was a really nice day. It was up around 60, nice bright sun. I just started off great, had a good night's sleep, did my cold plunge. Was out the door. I had things to do. I had a couple things that I didn't get done yesterday, and one of them was unclogging a drain for my lovely wife. So I did that, and it's nice to have that done because she couldn't do laundry. So now she's able to do laundry, and she thinks I'm pretty smart by getting that done. So I got that done, and I'm working on some shelves. Oh, wow. Tuesday. Today was my day to milk, wasn't it? Huh. Okay. So I'm working on some shelves down in the bank, and I built those shelves out of plywood. And for the legs, I used 2x6s that I ripped in half. So they were dimensional 2x6s. So the legs came out about 2.75 inches. And they look pretty good. I discovered something when I was at the lumber yard today. I was asking the guy, is there anything I can use to go around this plywood to make a better edge on it? And he showed me a couple things, but it was going to make too much of a ridge, and each section was $10. They were aluminum, and it just didn't sit right with me. So I went and looked in the wood rack, and I found these small pieces that were 3/4 of an inch by about probably a 1/4 inch, and they had a rounded edge on them, a rounded top. And what I did was I glued those to the side and then put brads all along the side and cut them very carefully and sanded them, and they look good. They look good. Just a nice plywood, and then I put Varathane over the whole thing, and it looks nice. It looks nice. I like that kind of, utilitarian look. I didn't go to a lot of expense to do it, but I tried it out before I put the edge on it. I tried it out. I was talking with a customer in the bank, and I leaned on it. This works great. This is good for leaning on. And you can write on it and everything else. So it turned out pretty good. I'm saying the bank because I was bringing some bacon and eggs into town the other day to Spears Auto. And when I put it on their counter, I had it in a box. I said, I'm making a bank transfer because we run a ledger between us. So he does auto repairs and I do farm. But we all eat. So Jill keeps a ledger. He prints me out an invoice when he does work on cars. I give it to Jill, and she annotates it in this ledger. And at first, trained into the monetary system, the money system, which I'm not knocking it. There's an alternative, and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody that you do business with, and that's for sure. You kind of want to keep it so it's easily resolvable. Okay, so I'm $10 ahead. Here's 10. Now we're even. But after you do it for a while, you're like, well, there's a deficit here of several $100s. No big deal. It's not a big deal. And I think it's good for a friendship to do that. It seems to be working good for us. Hey, you know what? My chat is not on. There it is. Okay, my chat is on. My chat is on. It's got something else in front of it, and I don't know what it is. Are you hearing me all right? All right, Scott Sano, and there's somebody above him, but I cannot read it because there's some other little thing there with my picture on it. I didn't put it there, and Jill's not home, so let's see if I turn it off. Let's see what happens. Remove from the stream. I hate to do this because it could just make. Okay, I'll try it. Oof. Oof. Not going to do that again. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All right. I'm pretty good with the light here because it's got an off button and an on button, and I'm pretty good at that. But anything on here, I'm not going to fool with. All right. Scott Sano says he's got me 5x5. Right on. Right on. And Keith's with us. Keith Sutton. All right. So we don't really have a great subject tonight. We really don't have anything. And sometimes that happens. And that's when I rely on you all to, we got the chat here. What do you want to talk about? It doesn't always have to be my subject. So think about it. And as you want to add stuff in, I'll be here to see it. But I want to tell you a little bit of other things that we're doing, because I'll tell you what, the farm is cranking right now. It is cranking. And if you want to know what that looks like let's say you've got a small farm going and you want yours to crank too. I think it starts right here. Right here. You can't always say, okay, what can I do to make this place crank? And what do I mean by cranking? So here's how it looked. Two of us were milking, and it was supposed to be me, but I kind of drove out because I needed a part for the clogged thing. I needed a snake, and my snake wasn't cutting it anymore. It got destroyed somehow. So I had to go get a snake. And the first place I went to get that snake, I thought, well, I'll get the trim for this cabinet, this set of shelves that I'm making. I got that. I got some glue. I got some adhesive, a couple other things. And then I had to go to another store to get the snake. So I was gone for a little bit. And when I got home, I went right down in the basement, did what I had to do to get into that drain line. I never seen anything like this. That drain line had a hole about that big that everything was going through to the main sewer line that goes out to the septic tank. And I'd never been into it before. It was a piece of PVC pipe. So it's been there for as long as I've been here. This is going to be our 21st year we're going on. Let's see. Yeah, we're in our 21st year. Come May. Well, that'll be beginning our 21st year. And but I got it opened up and I stuck the snake in there and I pulled it out, and I pulled out chunks of this white stuff, and it looked like laundry detergent because it was from that place where the laundry, the wash machine dumps in and goes out. And when Jill would turn the laundry machine on, the washing machine, it would back up in the kitchen sink. So I knew it was in there someplace. I had to cut the line to get into it. Anyway, I got that pulled out, and I had all these chunks on the floor of I don't know what it was exactly. It looked like laundry detergent, but it had built up something fierce. So I got that done. And then I needed to just take care of the animals. I had to feed. So doesn't happen like this all the time, but today I had to feed the dairy cows, so I had to drop them a new bale. So that means I got to get the tractor going. I have to put the bale spear on. I got to get a bale, open the gate, go in there, drop it in their feeder, drive out. It's pretty easy, except sometimes when I open the gate, they want to scoot out. But that went smooth. I fed the steers. Only have 6 of them now. We went through quite a few of them. So I did that, and then I have to feed 2 groups of pigs. And that's nothing. That's just loader. I'm just scooping up bread and taking it out and dumping it to them. I've finally got my breeding stock pigs moved back to their old pen, which is up here. And it's it was designed for them, and so it suits them much better than when I had them. I had them in the pen I had them in temporarily, because this pen is in between the house and the apartment, and we needed a water line over there, and the quickest way was right through the pig's pen, and it's exactly a quarter acre. So we needed them out of there. You couldn't work in there with them. They'd be in your way. And we had to get a digger in there, a ditch digger. So we finally got that finished up, closed in, and so I put them back in there, and they're happy, very secure, and they've got a lot of old hay in there that they can make their beds in, make their nests in. I got one she looks like she's ready to pop. So any day now, we're going to have some new babies on the ground. I've only got 4 sows now, and that's enough. I'm gonna hold right there. That's a good number for me to have. I'll have enough to sell, and then I have enough to fill my feeder pen and feed them out for classes in the fall, and then after the class is over in November, then we butcher those pigs and then get them processed into the bank. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I finished that statement about the bank. So when you're running a ledger like that, I said, I'm just making a bank transfer. Right. And then I started thinking about our store as though it were a bank, because the food that goes in there, the food, milk and stuff, actually currency, right? Because it has value. So I got to thinking, if any of our buddies there in the food Nazis have a problem and they say, do you have a store on your farm? I would say, no. I have a bank. And then banking is not their thing. So it would be none of their friggin' business, which is none of their friggin' business anyway. So anyway, that was why I call it the bank now. And I'm thinking I may change the sign and change it to Baker's Green Acres Bank. Like, I always wanted to have my own bank. There's a little cash box in there. It's got money in it, when people want to pay in cash, whatever. Yeah, so just a thought, kind of a fun thought. And while the milking was going on and the repairs were going on, our hired guy, Josiah, was in the butcher shop. And yesterday they moved in, let's see, about 2/3 of the beef that we knocked down last Tuesday. And that beef that we knocked down last Tuesday was the biggest one we have ever done. And sadly, I did not get a weight on it. Sadly, I could have, just, but it was so big that its nose was on the ground. So it wouldn't have been a great weight, but it would have been a fairly good weight. But its nose was on the ground. So it's the biggest one I've ever done. We did, and the heaviest. We did a bull last year, and he was probably a little longer, but he was not near as big as this one. This one was a Hereford, and he was all of 3 years old. And you want to talk about a monster, right? But it's a good thing, because the idea is to get the animal as heavy as possible, because the animal is sold by the pound. Once it's packaged up, it's sold by the pound. So you want the heavier animal. I don't know why you would butcher a beef at 18 months when you could easily go 24. I remember a guy saying to me, a guy I don't see anymore, my choice, but he said, oh, you're just wasting your time letting them keep going. And he seemed to know everything there was to know about cattle. And okay, it wasn't going to change what we were going to do. We like them to be about 3 years old before we knock them off. And so anyway, I don't think that's true. I think if you're feeding grass and you're grazing them for 6 or 8 months of the year solidly, it's not costing you anything to graze them. Not much anyway. I mean, maybe some, but not much. It's a different story if you're putting feed in front of them every day and they're in some sort of feed lot and it's feed that you have to pay for. If you're graining cattle, whoa, they can go through some grain. They can go through some grain. A note on grain feeding. Last week in the consulting call, Ann Putnam made a statement, and I said, "What?" And she said, "Oh yeah, if you grain your ruminant animals, like like sheep or goats or beef cattle, or even dairy cattle, if you grain them heavily, then you have to trim their hoofs." And I thought, huh, there might be something to that, because I have never had a farrier come in here and trim the hoofs of our beef cattle, ever. Never needed to. You look at their hoofs, they look fine. But there are guys around here that make a living as hoof trimmers, and they go to these massive big farms and they're there, for weeks, and they have these machines that they walk a dairy cow into, and then it squeezes them, and then the thing tilts, and the cow is immobilized, and they can work on the hoofs. But we've never needed to do that, and I never, I wasn't sure why that was, because in these great big farms, I don't know if you even want to call them farms, they're like factories. Those cattle are on concrete all the time. The only time they're off concrete is when they're standing on pads, rubber pads, when they're getting milked. That's the only time. And then I guess when they're in their loafing areas, and then they're on sand, right? They have a box in there, and then the cow goes in there and can lay down in the sand. And I guess that's an effort to keep them clean, because they can clean the sand out, I guess. I don't know too much about that. I've only been in one time, and I was not impressed. I can tell you that. It did not seem like anything I would ever want to be working there or be involved with in any way. It just turned me off right away. So that was going on, and let's see. I think both front quarters are done. These ones we're making hamburger out of them, so we were just stripping the meat off of them, and any spots that didn't look good, getting them shaved off. I think this beef hung outside for 1 week. In that week, I don't think it froze solid. There was a couple days it was quite warm, so there was a fluctuation in the temperature. Normally you hang a beef at 38 degrees for like 10 days. But I think with the fluctuation of the temperature and it getting a little warm, almost get a little uncomfortable with the warmth. There's no flies yet, though. I think you get a better breakdown of the muscles. And so we had steaks for lunch that were, what were they? They were off the shoulder. I forget what they're called. I don't remember what they're called. They were good. The flavor on those steaks was so good. And if it weren't for the fact that I was riding high today, I mean, it was nice out. I have things that I want to do that have been waiting. You can't do them when it's freezing cold. And I would have sat there and ate 2 of these babies that were this big, but I didn't. I ate 1 because I knew if I ate 2, I'm going to get bogged down, right? So I only ate 1, had some kimchi, and that was it. That was it. All the fat, it was so good. And I think Jill just made them in a frying pan. Yep, with nothing in the pan, probably just butter in the pan, probably. So So that went on. He's our hired guy, and he worked till about 5, and then he took off. The kids took off because they had to help their grandparents with sap, and that's about 5 miles that way, and they took their motorcycles over there. And Jill took off too to help with sap, and yeah, that was it. And then when I finished up there, I wound up in a long conversation with one of our customers, and she's real interested in farm things, and so I was talking with her. And then another customer came in, and then they started talking, and then I was talking, and then I had to call the vet. Called the vet yesterday, and this is kind of heart-wrenching here. We have a cow named Cece, Cookies and Cream, and she's about 6. She's given us, I think, 4 calves. Maybe she's 7, because I thought it was 5 calves. And she's in milk right now, full milk production. We get about 4 gallons of milk from her a day. But when we got her, you may remember, because I've told the story before, but way, way back when we got her, Jill was working at a dairy. It's the only time Jill's worked off the farm since we've been here, and she just wanted to do it. And so she went to work for a big dairy, not a massive dairy, but a big dairy. It's family owned, and they're classified organic, and they milk probably 300 cows. It's none of the cows have names. It's just busy and stinky, and yeah, but it's organic. I don't know. But while she was there was a calf that was born, a heifer, and it had a condition with its back hoof, and nobody really knows why this is like this, but the herd manager, so he would have been the smartest guy at the dairy, had told Jill that it was, well, when somebody gave that calf a shot, a vitamin shot or whatever they do when the calves are born, he must have hit a nerve, and the calf couldn't relax its hoof. So the hoof was knuckled under. And so the poor calf was walking around on its knuckles, not on the hoof. The hoof was under. And so the guy that owns the place said to Jill, well, you can have her if you want, because otherwise we're just going to knock her in the head and throw her in the manure pit. And so Jill said, okay, we'll take her. And so we took her. She was just a little bitty thing. I don't think she ever nursed her mother. They do the same as we do. We take them right away. And I used to think, wow, how cruel. But so we brought her home, and we started giving her calf replacer, and she lived for the remainder of that winter in a hutch on the garden, and every day we had to feed her twice a day. Her, and there was two other bulls that were what they call lungers, right? So the conditions in those places, I mean, they do the best they can, but the air is really bad, and these calves got lung infections, and they were only a couple of days old, and those guys are used to them. They just, at the time, calves, what they would call a deacon calf, it's a Holstein bull. They don't want them. And at the time, neither did anybody else. Really, no one wanted them. And so the owner just said, you want these ones too? And I brought 4 of them home. One of them died. The other 2 made it. And the other 2 made it to maturity. And they were we castrated them, and we used them for steers. And they were great beef. But CC, we made a splint out of a piece of PVC pipe, cut it lengthwise, made a splint, and put that on her foot and pushed the hoof up and then taped it down. And it wasn't relaxed all the way, but then in a few more days, pushed a little further and taped it down, duct tape, and left it on there for quite a long time. It was months, and then finally took it off, and she was walking on it the way she should. But it was swollen. It was swollen for sure, and it's just always been swollen. And many cow people have looked at it and said, "Yeah, there's not much you can do about that." She probably is going to revert back the other way in a short period of time, and you'll wind up just putting her down. So don't get too attached to her. All right, we says. So here it is. She's 6 years old, I think. I think 6. I think definitely no younger than 6. However, she could be 7. So she's been with us all that time. She spent a lot of summers out on the pasture. She's given us lots and lots of milk. Lots of milk. That cow just gives so much milk. But this winter was hard on her, and her hoof right now is swollen up twice as big as the other one, and she can barely step on it. Barely. Before, especially in towards the end of winter when it's hard to walk, which it is now, but the ground is soft now. And I said, I got to do something. So I said, I asked myself, well, what can I do? Okay, what can I do? What would I do if it was one of my kids with a sore foot? Okay. And so I called the vet clinic and I said, can you all refer me to a hoof specialist? A guy that does hoof trimming all the time, because they see it all the time, but they just go in and trim hoofs. But maybe they know. And the hoof trimming guys weren't really too interested in not at all interested in coming out. But one of the hoof trimmer guys that I got on the phone was actually an equine guy. And he said, well, I don't do cows. I can't do cows. Maybe there's a possibility that you could do a nerve block on her. They do it in horses, super high-end horses, barrel horses or whatever. And so I thought, well, I surely would do that. And I discussed it on the consulting call last week, see if anybody else knows what to do. And Ann Putnam, wealth of information, she said, oh, I've seen this before. You can get this stuff called DSMO and put that on the hoof and then put on a liniment. And a liniment, what that is, it's a numbing agent. It's like numbs it for the feet. It's very powerful. You have to handle it with gloves on because it can make your hands numb if you get it on you, right? So we did that for about 4 days, and we didn't see any change. And then the day that I called back to the vet, which would have been yesterday morning, she didn't even want to come up to get milked. She just couldn't put any pressure on it at all. So she came up this morning, but it was very difficult for her, and it was really hard to watch. I mean, she is holding it up high, and she just barely puts any pressure on it. And as soon as she's done, she wants to lay down. And so the vet, he's a good friend of mine. He came out today at 5:30, and I told him what the story was. And I said, if there's anything that we can do for her, we'll do it. Anything. And when we went out to see her, he put his hands on it, on her hoof, and then she stood up. And then when she tried pressure on it, I saw his face and he winced like, oh, she's in a lot of pain, he said. And I said, so And he said, I know of nothing that you could do for this cow. There's nothing that you could do. And so that was the final detent. And so I had to look at it like, well, we gave her a lot more years than she would have had if they just knocked her in the head when she was a calf. And then we did what we could to baby that hoof all these years. But the time has come. And even though she's in full milk, I cannot allow her to be in pain on a daily basis. So I'm going to have to put her down. Yep. So we'll, as soon as we can, and it'll be in the next day or two, we'll get her in, we'll milk her, and then we'll walk her right out onto the kill floor and do a humane kill. And then we will use her for her meat, you know? And I think that's the way to honor the animal the best we can. I mean, once she's put down, I don't think that, well, for the spirit of CC, we shouldn't, you know, use her for beef. Of course we should use her for beef. You know, if I push her in a hole, that's a tremendous waste, and I'm not going to do that. So, you know, I mean, you have these days and you have to get to a decision like this, and it's a tough one. But as the steward of these animals, I'm getting paid to make the tough decisions, and that's the decision that I had to make. So I talked it over with Jill. We're going to try one thing. We're going to move the round bale feeder up into right behind the milk parlor. We're going to spread out a bunch of straw ground for her. It's already dried there anyway. And she will only have to go from the milk parlor to the brown bale feeder. And it's probably about 20 feet. We're going to do that and see what happens if we give her a couple of days where she can lay down all day. And in the meantime, we're going to be freeing up our schedule that if we have to put her down, then okay, we've got the room to get her scun out and get that beef in on the tables and utilize that beef, right? That's what we're going to do. So that's the plan. And, you know, I've matured into this position. And I think years ago, I would have just been like, I don't even know why we're doing this. This sucks. I can't, why should this, God hates me, you know? But even though it's a tough decision and a difficult thing to do, it's difficult. I mean, I've laid down next to this cow, laid up against her. My kids have. We love this cow. We actually love her. But if I love her, I can't let her suffer like that. So it's not going to be an easy thing to pull the trigger on that one, but it's what has to happen. You know, I exhausted every other means that I had, so that's the way it's going to go. All right. Well, I thought I'd share that because that's farming. Okay, we got Scott Sano with us. Oh, okay. That little thing that was bothering me disappeared. Maybe Jill did it remotely. Okay. Cash flow streams. That's interesting, Keith, that you bring that up, because Keith brought something to my attention, although I already knew it. But we were talking about different streams on the farm, different streams. And, you know, milk is a consistent stream. It's probably not enough to float the operation, you know, well, but it's consistent, right? If you move 15 or 20 gallons of milk, that's not bad. It adds up in a week, right? So it's consistent. And so we have sort of like this stream of income coming down the driveway, and picture it like a brook. And that stream is just running steadily all the time. And then somebody comes in the store and they buy $100 worth of hamburger, which happened the other day. And then that adds to that stream, and it kind of almost overflows the banks a little bit, but then it goes back down. But it's still, that stream is still going along. And then we do a pig for somebody, and again we have a glut into it. We do a class, we have a glut of cash that comes through. We sell some pigs, we sell some wiener pigs, we sell some bread. You know, we have this bread now that we're putting in totes, and we're putting a $20 bill sign on it and saying for sale. You know, 500 pounds, it's more than that, of feed for your animals at $20, 4 cents a pound. You can't beat that with a stick. You cannot beat that with a stick. Only problem is you got to come get it. Wah. I'll call the wambulance. If you're going to get feed from the mill, you got to go there and get it, or you pay them to deliver it. So it's good, but that adds to the stream. You know, whatever, you do some consulting or something. Even this creates a little trickle of dollars that come in that add to that stream. The chicken processing business in the summertime, that adds to stream. What else? I guess that's it. Oh, pastured poultry. That adds to the stream. I guess that adds to the stream. I guess that's it. Okay, so, you know, in the bank right now, I have a brooder in there, and it's a brooder that I made out of a IBC tote. IBC totes, you can make anything out of those things. You could put homeless people in those things. I cut one off, and I cut it low, and then I bedded it with wood shavings and put a heat pad in it. I got a lot of flack because I wound up having to put a heat lamp in it, but at least I was very careful, and it's outside. It's just shining in. I condemn heat lamps a lot, and I think it's the way people use them, actually. But I did some figuring on the chicks, and let's see if you can follow me on this. This would be interesting. I'll get the old calculator out. And Keith was here the other day, and that's why we started talking about cash flow. Because I bought 135 laying chicks, 3 different kinds: Rhode Island Reds, Buff Orpingtons, and what are the gray and white ones? Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. But 3 different kinds, 135. And we paid $3.10 for them a piece. All right. So 135 times 3.10. Okay. So it came to $418. Seems like a lot. I mean, we would have 135 chickens if we kept them. Right now, middle of the road number. Let's see if you guys can give me some indication. Oh, International's with us. Give me some indication what you're seeing as far as laying hens, ready to lay hens. And for some reason, a ready to lay hen is 16 weeks, even though they really don't lay until they're about 18 weeks. But let's just say 16 weeks, ready to lay hen. How much? How much? I want to see some numbers here. I'm requiring a little participation here. It's good for the algorithm. All right. So who can tell me what they think a ready-to-lay hen is nowadays? Let's hear some numbers here. Ready-to-lay hen. Okay, McKenna and Andrew are with us. Okay, and Scott's saying he's really curious about the grain and hooves. Me too. Just me's with us. When is the class in November? I'd love to attend. Oh, you sure can. On or about the 1st of November is when Homestead Hog Harvest is. It's an awesome class. We start with live pigs, 12 people in the class, 2 live pigs. By Sunday afternoon, we've got bacon's made, we've got sausages hanging, we've got pork chops made, we've got all the roasts made, and you have a full working knowledge of that whole process from kill to full butchering and cleanup. It's an excellent class. Fun too. We always have fun. I look forward to it. Okay, precipitation here. I'm going to sign off. Belva says 15 to 20. Okay. All right, Belva. You're true blue. You know that? Always true blue. I'm calling my bank the Outpost. Well, actually, the store is called the Outpost. That's the name of it. So I already got you there. Outpost. That's the main facility is the Outpost, but then one door is the bank and the other one will be the kitchen. What do we got for numbers here? Come on. Come on. All right. Well, I'm going to go high. I'm going to go 20 because I'm hearing higher than that. What do you got, International? Come on. Intentional. Sorry. Probably not going to answer me because I'm calling you International. Ready to lay hens. What do we got? What do you think's a price? What are they going for around you? I can wait. I can wait. I can hear you now. Let's see how long he waits. I'll show you how long I wait. If I could just talk to Belva, I'd keep going. Come on. Come on, Andrew. What's a ready to lay pullet going for around you? If you don't know, give me an estimate. Okay. There we go. Thank you, Keith. You're true blue as well. 25. Keith says 25. Okay, so let's go with middle. I'm seeing 15 to 25 is the spread. So let's just go with 20. Would I, if I went into a store and I saw ready to lay hens, 18 weeks, 16 to 18 weeks, would I pay $20 a hen? Would I? 20, Jenny B? Would I? I think I would. I think I would. I think I would. Okay, so let's say you have a ready to lay hen and you want $20 for that hen. This is kind of cool. And it takes 16 weeks. 16 weeks is 16 times 7 equals 112 days. Okay, so from the time I got them last Tuesday until today, it's been 7 days. Okay, so if I want $20 for that hen and I divide 20 by 112 days, I'm getting 0.17. We could call it 0.18. Let's call it 18 cents. So this is cool. So in 7 days, my chicks are 7 days old today. So I go wait a minute. 0.18 times 7 equals $1.26. Okay. So I paid $3.10 for them plus 3, 1, whoops. plus 3.10 equals, now they're worth $4.36. So if someone came into the store today and said, "Oh, I'd like to have 5 of those chicks," I know what to charge them for those chicks, because the feed and the brooder and all my time and all that stuff, they're increasing in value 18 cents per day. So if I take 112 days, let's say someone comes in at 112 days and say, "I'd like to have some of those," I would say, okay, let's see, let's just go for fun. Let's just go 100 days. And they say, I'd like to have one of them. When are they going to start laying? And I'll say, oh, there'll be 16 weeks on this day. They say, oh, well, what do you got to have for them today? I'll say, well, let me check. There are times 0.18 cents. So they're $18 today. And they say, well, I'll come back and get them next week. I say, well, there'll be more next week. What do you mean there'll be more? Well, let's see. If you go 107 days, which next week is 107 days, times 0.18, they will be $19.26. And really, that right there just covers yardage. Yardage is when an animal is in your care, what you're charging per day. So as far as I'm concerned, those chicks are not going to stay here. They are for sale. So their value is increasing by the day. So I would say, well, the yardage fee on them is $19.26 plus my original investment, which is $3.10. They're going to be, whatever that would be. Let's see. Okay, so 107 days times 0.18 equals $19.26. And then I would factor in 3.10 plus 3.10. That chicken is $22.36. Right? So I've got down there in my bank, I've got this brooder, and I put an investment of $400 and something in there in chicks. But every day that I go down there and I care of them and they're all doing good and I have fellowship with them, I clear out the wet stuff, put some nice fresh water in there, give them some biochar and some good feed. I'm getting paid. I'm servicing an investment is what I'm doing. So for the fun of it, let's say that I sold them all at 112 days. Like somebody came in at 112 days and they paid for every one of them, 112 days times 0.18. It's $20.16 plus mint. I got to get paid 3.10. Okay, every one of those chickens is $23.26. Oh, you want to buy them all, Mr. Moneybags? Okay, no problem. Times 135. That will be $3,000, $140.10. So my investment grew from $400 to $3,000 in just 112 days. So can somebody out there tell me what percentage I'm gaining on that? I'm not good at that. Tell me, I started with, let's see. Okay, remember 3140 is what they become worth. And I started out at 135. Wait a minute. 135 times 3.10. $418. That's where I started. So 418 to 3140. Tell me what the percentage of gain is. That would be pretty interesting to know. But it's sort of like if I made an investment in something, like someone invests in my farm, they're going to want a dividend. They're going to want more than the money that they give me. And that's fair. I get that. For the use of your money, because I don't have it right now. You know, if I did, I would spend my own money in a heartbeat. If I got that 3150, 3140, let's say, if I got that, if someone came in and bought those, I would reinvest that almost instantly, because my herd shares are going so well that I would invest that instantly in another cow, or if I could get a cow calf pair, or I would do the best I could with that money. All right. And invest it in something that's going to pay me back. If I'd have known that you want to put your money into something, into things, only things that pay you a return, I would be a wealthier man than I am now. Way wealthier as far as money in the bank. I'm wealthy because of my way of life and my happiness level, my fun level all the time. I'm very wealthy. But I would have I would be able to do a lot more than I can do now, because I'm limited, somewhat limited. I always have extra to put back to reinvest. I'm there now, but I'm not where I plan to be, where my trajectory, where I'm going with the milk, with the dairy. So that's cool. That's an investment. I mean, a bunch of chicks, I reckon we'll sell probably all of them. You know, people really need that stuff now. And me and Keith were talking the other day, and we did a little research, and we found out that a Rhode Island Red, which we got Rhode Island Reds, Barred Rocks, and Buff Orpingtons. They're all heavy breeds. You want heavy breeds in the north. You want heavy breeds in the north. They can put on a ton of weight in the summer, and then it'll keep them warm through the winter, and they'll keep laying. They'll lay more readily in the wintertime without heat going in their house or light. Let's see. And they'll last longer. Fun fact, a hen is born with every egg it will ever produce. It is born with every egg it will ever produce. Might be microscopic, but they got them all. And when we butcher chickens, especially layers that people just get tired of them and they're young, I mean, there's this strand of yolks, and they get smaller, down to like a pinpoint. And then they go microscopic. Same as a woman. A woman is born with every egg she will ever produce, along with every other mammal and bird. Probably know about reptiles. I don't know about them. Don't raise them. I don't raise no reptiles. So we got to doing a little calculating, Keith and I did, and we found out that the numbers, Google, and you can trust them, a Rhode Island Red will give you between 250 and 300 eggs per year. So let's go in the middle there. Let's go 275. Okay, let's just use that number. 275 divided by 12, because that's a dozen. So that's, let's say 23. She'll give you 23 dozens of eggs. 23 dozen eggs, right? So a dozen egg, let's see if I can get a little bit more. What's a dozen eggs go for around you guys? Can I get a little? Come on, Bella. I mean, you'll be right on it. I know you will. What's a dozen eggs go? Let's skip that exercise. Let's just say 5. So I've got 23 dozen eggs. times $5. So that hen is going to generate $115 in eggs if you sell them at $5 an egg, and $5 a dozen. Sorry. And then Keith said, yeah, but you got feed. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not my responsibility. You know, it's like when you sell somebody a car. Well, I got a good deal on this car from John Spears. And Keith says to me, yeah, but you got to put gas in it. Wait a minute. That's not part of the equation here, Keith. It's the deal that I got. You buy a chicken from me for $23.10. And in that first year, when that thing starts laying, off of one chicken, if you sell every egg in the dozen form, all right, Scott's saying he's paying $5, so we're fairly accurate. So from that one chicken, you would make $115. Okay, let's say that you got 10 chickens. Let's just add a zero to that 115. 1150. Whoa. I almost don't want to believe this. Times 10. 115 times 10. $1,000? $1,150? Whoa. If you could figure out a way to feed your chickens for little or no money and get that 275 eggs a year out of them, it makes sense to have 10 chickens, don't it? What if you had 25 chickens? $2,875. There ain't no money in farming, folks. There ain't no money in farming. I think we have 75 chickens. And you know what? I'm here to tell you that we don't really track egg sales. 75 times 115. Am my numbers good here? This seems like, wow, $8,000 in eggs. I hope the price goes up. I really do. Be making them big egg money, right? That's a good exercise to go through, honestly, because you got to know your numbers. If you have a model like I used to have that was just open-ended, like we'll just do as many chickens as we possibly can, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that you want to, let's say for broiler chickens, I think you want to pick a number, know what you will make on that number of birds, and then plan for that. And then do it as efficiently and safely and cleanly and all that stuff as you possibly can. And, don't start early and don't go late. Just get a good number right in the middle when it's mild out so you don't have big problems. I've been thinking about that lately, and I got to talk to a guy, I think next week. It's a big-time podcaster. His name is Chris Williamson, and I'm telling you guys this because I'm going to do it. At first I had said I didn't want to do it because he's really big time. I guess like Joe Rogan is here and he's just here. And I didn't want to do it because I have to travel out to Texas to do it. It was like a podcast where you sit and you talk and they film it. It's not worth it to me to do that. And so I was going to turn them down respectfully. I listened to the podcast, and it's called Modern Wisdom. And they have some pretty big names. I listened to the podcast. But anyway, I've got to talk to this guy next week. And so I am going to do it because I can do it from here. They're going to hook up a sound deal. It's you know, a remote sound person that does it, so it's like studio quality. And I'm going to do it because I want to promote farming. I want people to hear this and say, "Really? You can make that kind of money in farming?" Oh yeah. I mean, we should know these things. We should know these numbers. And why we're, you know, we get together with other farm families, and I don't think that at the top of our list are dollars. I don't. It's usually way of life. Just think, if you love this way of life and you want to do it full time, and I mean not going to a job off farm and then coming home and then scrambling at night before the sun goes down, or scrambling in the morning before the sun comes up, you got to know your numbers. You do. You have to know your numbers. And I would go you one better than that. Knowing your numbers is what is it? It's a relief when you know your numbers. When you know that you, like if you're running a race and somebody keeps moving the finish line, or the finish line is whenever you drop dead, that's not a good race, and you're very unlikely to power up right at the end, right before you drop dead, because you don't know when you're going to drop dead. But when you know your numbers, you know how many chickens you're starting this date, you're ending this date, and this is how much we plan to make. If I do my job, this is how much I will make. Like with these chicks, if I do things right, and what I mean by doing things right is, oh, I'm in the house. It's 10:30. Just had a big meal, got my shoes off, and all of a sudden I realized I didn't check the chicks. They'll be okay till tomorrow. That's not doing it right. Doing it right is put your shoes on, get a coat on, go out there, be a man, do it right, right? And then the next morning, when I get up the next morning, first thing I'm doing, I'm checking those chicks. So those chicks have only been alone for, let's say I check them at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7. So they've been alone for 9 hours. We have pretty good luck with 9 hours. If they've got full water before I go to bed, the heat's on, they've got food, they're going to be okay for 9 hours. I'd rather shorten it to 8. That would make me feel better. But I got an investment down there. And that investment could mean the difference between, you know, no dollars and $3,000. So I better be a man about it and get out there and do my job. Better. Same thing with your cattle. Same thing with your pasture poultry. Everything that you're doing. The responsibility is on you to do things right. And once you set in your mind that, you know what, I'm going to do things right. I don't care what the temperature is out. I don't care how ugly it is. I'm doing things right. The welfare of these animals comes first. And once you do that, once you set that in mind, it doesn't become a struggle, a personal struggle to get your shoes on and go check on the chicks, you know. It actually becomes a scheduled thing that, well, before I go in, the last thing I'm going to do is check those chicks, because I don't want to have to, you know, cut out there. Or when I get up in the morning before I take my swim, I'm going to go check those chicks. Before I get coffee, I'm going to go check those chicks. That way, while I'm drinking my coffee, I'm feeling like, no, chicks are fine. They're all right. I just checked them. Only took me a minute. They're good. But me and Keith, I think we were talking. No, after that, I came up and had lunch. So me and Keith didn't talk about that all that much after that. He did his thing. I went and had lunch. But I was talking to my kids about this, about, you know, this is really cool. We got chicks and we want to sell the chicks, but how much are we going to make on those chicks? And when I started showing them these numbers, it was like, their eyes are bulging out. Are you kidding me? Well, it's not a sure thing. Like, I'm not sure that they're all going to sell when they're 16 weeks old. If not, I need hens. I can't lose on this, right? Because if they wind up in my flock, I'm good. They're going to be producing eggs. Now that I have this bank that I can put these eggs in after they are cleaned off and put in cartons and put in a vault. I'll put them in a vault because they're so expensive. And people will come in, they'll take them, and they will leave me the value of that dozen eggs. Are you kidding? What a good business this is. What a cool business it is. I don't have to go to Texas. I don't have to get in my car in the morning and drive to some factory and deal with some blue-haired weenie. I just get to stay here. It's a cool thing. And anyway, but I don't know what this guy is going to ask me. This guy is a professional interviewer. His name is Chris Williamson. Modern Wisdom. Yeah, Modern Wisdom. Big time podcast. So I'm not going to do any preparation for it at all. He's interviewing me. All I have to do is answer questions. I don't have to, and the professional interviewers don't say, so tell us about yourself. They don't do that. They've already looked into you. They know that the content that they're going to draw out of you is going to be worth a podcast where they've got sponsors lined up to sponsor that podcast. So they already know me and they know what they want to hear from me. They've already got it lined out. So it will be, it's a no-brainer. All I have to do is answer the questions and try to paint the picture of what this thing is that we're doing here that seems to be so interesting and cool and fun and profitable. It's the profit's got to be there. It has to be there, or else what you're doing has no value, right? If I put a sign down at the road that says everything in the store is free today, I don't think anybody would pull in. People are used to a fair trade. Once in a while, you get a good deal. Once in a while, you give a good deal. But there's an ulterior motive, right? I'm getting a good deal. I'm not paying full price for this, so it gives me the warm fuzzies. I'm going back to that guy. It's a sales ploy, sale this week only. Hey, they got a sale. I better go over there, make sure they don't have a sale going, right? It's a sales ploy. There's something in it for either party, usually the seller. It's the way to give your customers the warm fuzzies so they want to patronize your establishment. If we this is funny. We last Friday we went to a town that's out on the coast, we would call it. It's on Lake Michigan, which is, if you didn't know it wasn't the ocean, you wouldn't know it wasn't the ocean because you can't see the other side. And it's just huge. And so it seems like going to the coast. I call it the coast. If you're from the East Coast and you go out to the Atlantic, you're going to the coast. And so we went out to the coast. There's a town out there. And a few years ago, me and Jill stopped at this place to get a room for the night in the middle of winter. And whoa, they got a pool and a hot tub, right? And it was a resort kind of place, but nobody was there. We were like the only ones there, and that's how we like it. And so it was really pleasant. We went to an art show that was close there. It was like Subaru City. I mean, we did not fit in too well, but we kept our cool, if you know what I mean. And so ever since then, we've been taking the kids out there midwinter as kind of a little break from the farm. So we finish milking the cows, chores, and then we get in and bolt. And when we get there, we get our room, you look around the room. Oh, this is cool. We got sort of a condo type thing. And had a kitchen and everything, so we can bring our own food. My second oldest son, Joe, came with us with his family. And so it was really fun, festive environment, festive thing. It was fun. Spirits were high. And then we go out and take a walk. And so it's a harbor town. So we look at the boats, and not too many boats in there, but, and then we walk down this main drag where they have all these shops and stuff, and most of them are closed. But there was this one place, and Jill and I will never forget it, because we went in there the last time we were here, and we went in, and the girl working behind the counter, she took one look at us and then just looked back down at what she was doing. She was making a breakfast burrito or something. And it was, I don't know. It doesn't matter what kind of place it is. It doesn't matter. But it wasn't a Mexican restaurant. It was like a deli. I'll just call it a deli. And so we went and sat down, and this woman did not even look up at us. And so I'm sitting there for about 4 minutes, and I said, "So are we waiting for a menu here, or do we just tell you what we want?" And she said, "I'm making an order right now. I'll be with you in a minute." Just you know what. And so I said to Jill, "Let's go." And she didn't even look up when we walked out the door. Right? Service is everything. And if you are going to be direct sales to people on your farm, you got to be nice, and you got to meet them where they're at. And it was a perfect example of what not to do, what not to do with your customers. I don't know, just a story. But we had a great time out there. I don't know if you guys had weather Saturday night, and then Sunday. When we got up Sunday, the wind was blowing like crazy. There was storms all downstate. Where we were up there, it was just wind and smoke. Not sure where it's coming from. It's coming across the lake, though, for sure. But something was on fire. And then we got back here to the farm. The wind was bad, and it looked like it was getting worse. I had to tie a few things down, and we still had a few things that got away from us, but no real damage. I have to park the truck next to the outhouse, because the last time it blew over was the third time it had blown over. And I said, if that happens again, I don't think it'll be worth putting back together again. But it didn't blow over. The truck was parked next to it. So what was I going to do? Oh, so then we were talking numbers at the table the other day, and talking about cows and what a cow generates in her lifetime. And lactation period on a cow is usually about 9 months. We dry them off for about 3 months before they calf. 3 months. That's pretty standard. I don't think you have to, but that's what people do. I don't know if they did that back in the old days, but so about 9 months, and you're getting, so 9 months would be how many days? 9 times 30. I flubbed it. 9 times 30 equals 270 days. And average on a cow, what we go with and what I've seen other people go with who seem to know what they're doing, is 3. Go with the number 3, because when they start off, like with Cece, she can be up at 7. And then, like right now, she's at 4. 4. That hurts. That's plain hurtful that I have to do that. Oof. Maybe I could make her a prosthetic. Huh. Get Justin Zilka up here. He'd know what to do. And that might not be too far off. What if we had a tube that we slid over her hoof and it went all the way up to her hock and supported that and she could step on that? Nah, she'd still be stepping on that foot. Huh. Okay, so 270 days times 3 gallons equals 810 gallons. 810 gallons. Gallon of milk goes for $10. Add a zero. Oops. 810 times 10 per cow. Per cow. So, we have a tendency to look at a cow and say, "Oh, they want $2,500 for that cow." When you buy the cow, when you invest in the cow at $2,500, let's say it's a 2-year heifer, you will have her for 10 years. So you're making $8,100 off her a year, and that's before feed. But that's like before gasoline, before feed per year, and you're going to have her for 10 years times 10. So in her 10-year lifespan, she's going to create $81,000 of income for you. Are you kidding? $100 for a really the nicest cow you can find? That's not too much. That's not. And so then you start getting up and you see them for 35. Is that too much? I don't think so. I don't think so, because if you're making $8,100 a year off her, you can service that loan right now. So you're investing your dollars in an asset that's going to pay you a dividend. Like, let's say you invest in a bar of gold. It doesn't pay you every month. Now, yeah, it has a tendency to increase in value. It increases in value, but it's not paying you a dividend every month. So let's say I borrow money from somebody to buy a $3,500 cow. And she's producing 3 gallons a day times average month 30 days, 90 gallons at $10, $900. $900. That's what she's making every month. What is the payback schedule? What is the payback? So I'm looking at this because I'm going through this right now. Well, I can literally pay you probably about $800 a month on that loan for $3,500. So 800. No, let's say it was 35 that I paid for the cow. 3,500 divided by 800. That's 4 payments. That's 4 months. I'll have a payback in 4 months. What if I went 500 a month? So 3,500 divided by 500 a month. 7 payments. That's paid off in under less than 2 in 7 months. She's still got 2 months of lactation that you're going to make the full $900 a month on. That's crazy. I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you have a box of money that you need to go to and you want to invest in something that pays well, pays a monthly dividend, boy, I think chicks are great, but nothing like cows, especially if you get a good cow, because 3 gallons that's okay, but some really good cows will give you a lot more than that. Like, let's say you get this cow, and it gets better the more I think about it, because at the beginning of her lactation, let's say you buy a cow and she is heavy bred, is what they call it, heavy bred. That means she's going to calf in a month or two. So you buy this heifer, or let's say she's a cow being she's already calved once. That's probably better, right? But a heifer could be okay, because you're adding a year onto her life too, that you will own her. And chances are you should be good enough to look at that and say that's going to be a good cow. I mean, I'm hoping that 5 years down the road, a lot of this happens within the tribe, so there's accountability. I really do. I know it's going to happen, because when I get up to my 14 cows, I need 14 cows to be milking 10 to meet my goal. That's going to generate me 14 calves per year. If I did all sexed semen, they're heifers, and so when I sell them, I'm going to sell them to people in the tribe. I'm not going to sell them as a heifer if I wouldn't keep it myself. I would just beef that one if there was something wrong with it. But anyway, okay, so you buy this cow and she calves within the first month or two. She's going to produce more gallonage at the beginning of her lactation. So let's say that she produces 7 gallons. Or let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say she produces a steady 6. And that's pretty consistent. When they first calf, it's right up at 6. And we know this because our bucket milker holds 7. And Cece, our Holstein, she would overfill it. And if you weren't watching what you're doing, the milk would start flowing back into the compressor. But let's go 6, and she's going to do that for, let's say 3 months. We're going to get 6 gallons out of her. I'll tell you what, let's say 5, just because. Let's say 5. And she's going to do that for 4 months. So 5 gallons a day times 7, 35 gallons times 10. Wait a minute. I just lost my train of thought. Okay. Because I started thinking about something else, but let me just stay with the original one. So she's going to give us 5 times. Wait a minute. My thing is, okay. 5 gallons a day times 7 days a week equals 35. Okay. Times 4. Wait a minute. Why don't I just do it 30 days? Okay, 30 days. So we're going to get 3 gallons of milk times 30 days in a month. 90 gallons. Times 10, right? $900. Okay, so what if you had a payment schedule with your lender and you said, I will pay you off on a percentage of what she makes. And he might say, what percentage? You might say 50%. Or you might say, like in my case, I might say, I'll pay you 100%. So then those first 4 months, she makes me $900 a month times 4. Now, I would choose to go with 100%. I want that lender paid. Why? Because I want to borrow that money again. He gets his percentage, his interest percentage, whether I pay it off in 1 year or I pay it off in 4 months, he's still going to get his percentage on his money. I'm willing to do that because if I got milk going out the door, I've got a customer. And that customer leads to another customer. The last thing that I want to do in a herd share, this is more of a herd share conversation. The last thing I want to do in a herd share is have to tell somebody that's been getting milk for 2 months from me, I got to cut you off. Yeah, you were the last one in the share. I got to cut you off because I don't have the milk. I do not want to do that. Why? Because then I have to call them back. Oh, I got milk now. One of my cows freshened. Oh, I found somebody else. Or I don't like this deal where I'm going to get cut off. I don't like this deal. You don't want to do that because that'll ruffle feathers. Now, it's not the same when somebody comes to the bank and says, I'm here to make a withdrawal on eggs. Say, oh, okay, that's not a big a deal. But when you're in a herd share contract with somebody, and they're relying on you for that milk, because milk is more of a staple. You can't get raw milk at the store. Eggs at my house, at the farm, are way better than the ones at the store. But in a pinch, you can use the ones from the store. You can. In a pinch, if you're drinking raw, chances are the reason you're drinking raw milk is for a health issue or health extension issue. You're probably not going to say, well, I'll just drink the red cap or probably the pink cap milk. You probably won't do that. So I do not want to cut my herd share people off. So making payments back to my creditor, my lender, he's happy to get his money back as quickly as possible. Why? So he can lend it out again. And I'm happy to do that because I want him there to lend me money again. Right? And it's kind of that way building business. So you guys know that I am not really into that because I have not done that. I have an auto loan, but I really don't like doing that with banks. But building, and here we go with the but. However, lending amongst ourselves is not the same as the predatory lending that the banks do. Like, I got a guy that offered to lend me some money for cows. And I'm sure that if we lived closer to each other, he would offer to loan me a pick or a shovel or something like that. Or if he needed a chainsaw, I'd let him use my chainsaw. If he needed a pickup truck, I would let him use my pickup truck. Not that I would say, yeah, go ahead and take it. It doesn't mean nothing. Oh, yeah, it means something for sure. Borrowing money from this, well, that means something. He can loan it to anybody he wants. He could invest it in gold or Bitcoin or anything like that. But he's choosing to invest it in this operation because he wants to see this operation grow. And I get that. I totally get that. And I think that is a good thing. So, yeah, when I look at these numbers, I get pretty excited because there really are a lot of cows around. You may have to go a little ways to get them, and you may have to pay a little bit more than you think you will. But $3,500 for a cow is an asset that's going to pay you in her lifetime $80,000. Yeah, but you got to feed hay to them. Okay, let's say I bought a tow truck, and you calculate how much money you can make with that tow truck. Yeah, but you got to put gas in it too. It's not a good argument, So you got to put hay in it. Okay. Maybe I could make a little more if I buy a little better hay, or if I take a little bit more time in how I cut my own hay. Could I be a little bit more careful? Could I Could I store it better? Certainly I could. I did that this winter. I was pretty proud of myself. I put all the hay for my dairy cows in. I had it all under roof, protected. The beef cows, I didn't have enough room to put in all the hay. So their hay I left out. And I only moved it outside from under roof when it was cold. So it didn't get rained on in the summertime. Didn't get rained on at all. It got snowed on, and it got sunlight on it, which breaks down some of the hay on the outside. But on the inside, it was good. But I didn't want to do that to the dairy cows. I wanted them to have the best. I kind of baby them. Oh, I'm 9:30, and I had nothing to talk about. All right, let me see what we got. Anybody got anything? Scott's paying $5 for eggs. Kaleidoscope junkie. Haven't seen you in a long time. Okay, you just said what I was trying to say. I find regular accounting reduces stress. That's what I was trying to say. Because you know where you're at. And why am I just finding this out now? Why am I finding it out now? I think it's because people said to me, you got to know your numbers. And so when somebody says you got to know your numbers, there's that little voice inside of me that says, you don't need to know your numbers. Right? You got to which voice you going to listen to, right? Inside a man, there are two wolves. The first wolf is gay and the other one's gay, and you are gay. I'm not sure ready to lay. I have a work buddy had a flock taken out by neighbor dogs. The neighbor tried to give him $60. He told me he was insulted because they earn that much in a month or less. Friggin' A. If some neighbor came in and their dog killed all my, I would be charging them like 115 for each one. I would, because I can show them this is what they generate. I can't buy that with $60 for the whole flock. I had that happen back in Montana. We had a neighbor, pesky neighbor. She was one of these people that would take animals from people. Long story, but she had a reputation of taking people's dogs. They'd come and bring her a dog and she'd take it, and she worked nights. So the dogs were going wild all day long, getting out and making a mess and everything. She took in a hound dog, like a red bone hound dog. And he came over to my house. And when I pulled in the driveway, I noticed something different. And what it was, there was no movement in the chicken pen. And I looked. It's like, what, are they all sleeping? They're all dead. A whole flock. I just about filled the back of my pickup truck with them. There must have been 40 of them. And they were all, full-size chickens. And the neighbor boy came over, and he had come over earlier in the day, and he wanted to borrow some 22 bullets. And so evidently this happened early in the day. He had come gutting the dog, didn't know, or we didn't know what dog had done it, but he confessed that it was his dog. It wasn't really his dog, but he shot it anyway. And she never did pay me for those chickens. They were terrible people. Scott Sano is paying $18 a gallon. Man, where are you, Scott? It's worth it, I think. Really, when you think of an $18, what that's worth, wow. You go to any place and it's like you're breaking a 20 for just about anything that you get. I think this conversation is a conversation that needs to be had more often, because I do see farm people spending money frivolously. I really do. You can spend yourself into the poorhouse just on Cokes, and candy bars and stupid stuff like that. lottery tickets and beer. You know, you really can. And I think people need to look at that. I was one. I did it. Down by Ann Arbor, it's worth every penny. All right. Well, Ann Arbor. No, I'm not going there. I'm going to this weekend. Funeral. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, that's it. I didn't do any housekeeping, but I guess May, we changed the date for Seed Savers Day. All right. Well, I don't know what it is. And Jill took it off the calendar. I'll tell you next week. But that's the next thing that's coming up. Nothing in April. Wait a minute. April? Seed Day in April? I don't think so. It's in May. All right. Well, I'll have to let that go because that doesn't look right to me. I'm pretty sure it's in May because April we have unpredictable weather. Beautiful day today. 60s. Nice. Would have been a good seed day. But that's about it. And then the next thing after that is going to be chicken class in June. We're adopting a little bit different format on that. What people really want to know is processing. You know, so we used to roll it all into one day, pasture poultry, you know, care, operation, all that, and then processing in the afternoon. But I think we're just going to do processing and spend more time on that. And, you know, all right, I'm going to get going. Remember, anyone can farm. Good night now.